Good morning. This is Valley Beth Shalom live and online. I'm Rabbi Ed Feinstein, and it's my pleasure to welcome you this morning and to wish you a very good Thursday morning. It's a bright and warm day here in Los Angeles, and I hope that today brings blessings to you and to your family. This is a remarkable week in the life of the Jewish people. We have just completed Passover, and now we enter into a period between two new holidays. The holiday of Yom HaShoah, which remembers and commemorates the destruction, the horrors of the Holocaust, and the celebration and joy of Yom HaAtzmaut, which celebrates the recreation and establishment of the State of Israel. It's a remarkable set of holidays. On Pesach, we celebrate a God of history, a God of redemption. On Pesach, we said, V'hi sha'amda lavotenu, may the promise that God made us to our ancestors, may it always stand for us. Shelo achad bilvad amad aleinu, because not just once, but in every generation, we are threatened. V'kodesh baruch hu matzilenu mi'adam, and God comes to rescue us. We celebrate divine rescue, a God who is involved in our history, a God who is involved and invested in our experience, a God who reveals God's self in the rescue of the Jewish people. That's the conviction of the Bible. But this week, we have these two new holidays. Now, these holidays are remarkable because they have upturned everything we know about Judaism. Look, the greatest moment of destruction in the history of the Jewish people has got to be the destruction of the Holy Temple in the year 70 by the Romans, and the Holocaust matches it or exceeds it. And the greatest moment of redemption, of salvation, of being rescued in all of Jewish history is the exodus from Egypt, Yetziat Mitzrayim. But the recreation of the State of Israel matches it or exceeds it. The problem is that Yetziat Mitzrayim and Churban Abayit, the exodus from Egypt, the destruction of the Holy Temple, took place 1,500 years apart. We had a chance to breathe, a chance to assimilate these events, a chance to reflect and consider, what do these events mean for our notion of how the universe works? But the Holocaust and the recreation of Israel took in one decade, in the experience of one generation. How do people make sense of that? How do you make sense of such a radical oscillation? With the Holocaust, we are tempted to say there is no God of history. How could a God of history stand and watch 1 million Jewish children destroyed and not intervene? Where were the plagues? Where was the blood and the frogs and the gnats at that moment when we needed them? And then, just a week later, it's Yom HaAtzmaut. We celebrate the recreation of Israel, a homeless people, a people without a place in the world, a people moving from land to land, from place to place, a people without a sense of belonging anywhere on the planet, a people with no material or political power in the world, returns to sovereignty in its homeland, its ancient homeland, and builds that homeland into a world power of culture and technology, of learning. We recreated a language that hadn't been spoken in this world in 2,000 years and created a culture in that language. Who among us doesn't see something transcendent in the recreation of Israel? Something miraculous, something that reflects a God who has reached into history to redeem us. But anything you say about Israel forces you to go back and ask, well, then what about then? What about in the Holocaust? And how is it that we sit at our Seder tables and recite those words as much as we want to believe them, knowing full well what we have witnessed in the course of the 20th century? This oscillation between Pesach, Yom HaShoah, and Yom HaAtzmaut leaves us bewildered, leaves us wondering. We're not ready to answer the question. I don't think that there's a philosopher in the world who is ready to answer the question. My great teacher, Rabbi Schulweis, answered it by saying, look, there is a redemptive God in history, and that God lives within us. Greenberg, the wonderful Jewish philosopher, has talked about powerlessness and its corruption, and that what the Holocaust taught us was the necessity of taking power. And my teacher, David Hartman, talked about creating a place in the world where mitzvah lives, where a Jewish public space, where we can celebrate the ethics and the glories and joys of Jewish ideas in a public space. And that's the redemptive quality. That's the redemptive quality of Israel. How do we understand Pesach, Yom HaShoah, and Yom HaAtzmaut, all within the space of 2.5 weeks? And then, of course, as we sit at home, isolated from one another and worried about the pandemic that rages outside, we certainly ask the question again, where is that God of rescue? What is our part in the process of salvation, of redemption? How do I understand the way that the world works? Well, the only way I think to grasp these ideas is not in discursive philosophy. We're not ready for discursive philosophy yet. We will be in several generations. But at this point, I grasp these ideas in story. For me, a story, a narrative, is able to grasp the contradictions of history and philosophy and to hold them both. The dialectic of yes and no, of dark and light, of hope and tragedy, all at the same time. So this morning, as our morning Kavanah, I offer you one of my favorite stories, a story for the days between Yom HaShoah and Yom HaAtzmaut. Well, to know this story, you got to know 3 things. First, you have to know that there's a wonderful midrash that when Bnei Israel crossed the Red Sea, when we crossed the Red Sea and arrived at the other side and realized that we were free of Pharaoh's oppression, we wanted to sing a song of salvation, a song of celebration, but we had been slaves for so long that the song caught in our throats. The Midrash says that at that moment, God took pity on us and sent the birds of the world, all the birds of the world, to come and to teach Bnei Israel, to teach the people of Israel what it means to sing, what it means to be free, what it means to open your heart in joy and in celebration. And so for that reason, here's the second thing you got to know, that on Shabbat Shirah, the Sabbath, when that song is read in Torah, it was a custom in Eastern Europe for the children to leave the synagogue during the Torah reading and to spread breadcrumbs and cookie crumbs all over the street in front of the synagogue to welcome the birds who were still there in the wintertime to come and have something to eat in celebration of what they gave us, the gift of song. And the third thing you have to know is that every Jewish child knows about the wonderful town of Chelm. Chelm was a town of the wise or the most foolish wise people who ever lived. The town of Chelm is renowned in folklore and in mythology as this wonderful, wonderful town. And so here is the story. It takes place just after the creation of the State of Israel. Just after 1948, in the port of Haifa, a ship arrives and a whole ship full of refugees pile off of the boat. And here comes one older man carrying 2 giant valises. He's dressed in traditional black with a black hat and a black coat, and he stands before the immigration inspector, who has had a very long day, and doesn't even look up into his face, but takes his documents and says, "Name?" And the old man replies, "Shlomo Elimelech, son of Yehuda and Leah." City of origin, Chelm. Occupation, rabbi. The immigration officer looks up into the man's face, looks past his beard into his eyes and says, "Say that again." "I am Reb Shlomo Elimelech, son of Yehuda and Leah, and I am the rabbi of Chelm." "You are the rabbi of Chelm, the wise men of Chelm, the ones we learned as kids in stories," says the inspector. "You come from the town of Chelm?" "Yes, that's my town," says the old rabbi. "I came from the town. And the stories we learned as kids about the wise fools or the foolish wise people of Chelm, every one of them is true. They all happened. And I am the rabbi of Chelm." "You are the rabbi of Chelm? No kidding, really? You know, Rabbi, it's been a long day and I'm very tired. And there's a long line behind you, so stop fooling around. Tell me the name of your town. Young man, he said, I come from the town of Chelm. That's where I come from. Okay, fine. So the inspector writes down Shlomo Elimelech, son of Yehuda and Leah, of the town of Chelm. But it tickles him. So he says, hey, everybody! And he turns to his colleagues who are all working in the immigration department and the port of Haifa. Please come over. Everyone come and welcome the Rabbi of Chelm. Everyone comes and laughs. My God, it's true. Yes, he says. The wise men of Chelm, that was us. We're the rabbi. The Rabbi of Chelm. Could you imagine? He exists. The place exists. Okay, Rabbi, welcome. What's in the bags? Birds. Birds. Big bags full of birds. You came to the land of Israel carrying birds. Someone check. And one of the inspectors went and he unzipped one of the bags, and sure enough, there were birds in the bags. Rabbi, there are birds in the bags. Yes, I know, of course. I brought the birds. You brought birds to the land of Israel. Do you not know that we have birds here in Israel? We have many birds here in Israel. Oh, no, you don't understand. Well, then why? Why did you bring birds to the land of Israel? Young man, they came and they took us away to the camps. Every one of us. Every man, woman, and child of Chelm went away to the camps. We worked and we suffered and we cried. And then somehow, miraculously, when the war was over, I find myself alive. I'm alive and I'm liberated. But where to go? So I went back to Chelm. I went back to the town. I went back to find the people that I love. I went back to my city to find my students, my family, my friends. Young man, I came to the town, but there was no one there. No one survived. Not one. I'm the only one. By some strange miracle, by some strange curse, I am the only one left from the town of Chem. Young man, I stayed in the town for some time waiting. Perhaps someone would come. Someone survived. Someone would find their way home. But no one came, and every day I went to the synagogue and I prayed to God that someone survived. And then one day I realized it was Shabbos Shira. It was the Sabbath of song. This was the Sabbath when the children would go outside and feed the birds and thank the birds for the gift of song for our liberation from Egypt. So I ran outside and the birds, they came because they had been coming for generations and generations and generations. I came and the birds were there, young man. The birds were there, but there were no children to feed them. There were no children because there are no Jewish children left in Europe. Because none of them survived. Because they took them all. So I took the birds. I grabbed as many as I could. I grabbed the birds, the starving birds, and I put them in my valise. And I put them in my valise. And I ran to the train station and to the port. And so I arrive here today. Today, in the land of Israel. Because here, there are Jewish children who are alive. Because here, song is alive. Because here, hope is alive. Because here, Jews are alive. Young man, I came because this was the only place I could come to let the birds teach us once again to sing. The immigration officer looked. And he wiped the tears from his eyes, and he stamped the form, and he looked into the man's eyes. Rabbi Shlomo Elimelech, son of Yehuda and Leah, Rabbi of Chelm, welcome home. This week of Yom HaShoah and Yom HaAtzmaut, welcome home. Have a very good day. Take very good care of yourself today.